Hi there. In this lecture we're going to have a look at Fischer's game against Herbert Goldhamer in 1956, the Eastern States Open. So would Fischer find gold in this game? So let's see. E4 from Herbert Goldhamer, and we have Fischer playing the Sicilian defense. Knight f3, d6, d4, c takes, knight takes d4. So out of this opening, there's a very dangerous semi-open c-file. This is one of the beautiful things about the Sicilian defense. And Fischer kind of instinctively knew, this was a great opening choice. The knight off. It's like he's already using what I would regard as the Rolls Royce, one of the very best variations possible in the Sicilian defense. He's already hovering over this. Very active, aggressive counterplay potential. And we see white playing bishop e2. And we see now e5 actually. So not e6 against this bishop e2. e5. So not minding the Boleslavsky hole, that d5 hole. We have bishop e7, bishop e3. Black castles. And now f3. White seems to want to get an attack and leave the king on the king side. And attack with pawns and leave the king over there, instead of a more modern treatment which sometimes has the king castling queen side. We see bishop e6, queen d2, and now b5, rook d1, knight bd7, and now g4. So it looks aggressive, but pawns don't go backwards. We see rook c8, and already this actually brings back fond memories for me in a junior tournament, actually, where I played this knight maneuver. I got one of the bishops. I beat a strong junior at the time, and the tournament director was upset at me and my dad, like, where did I come from? I'd been playing hundreds of games against my father. And yeah, this does seem a very natural plan to use the semi-open c-file. The c4 outpost square is a kind of key square here to make use of. So you can get various perks if you make use of this square. Like getting one of the bishops sometimes. And, a rook on c4 exerts lateral influence as well. We see here h4, and now Fischer does use this plan. It's a very, very logical plan, and not being scared of this pawn attack. g5 is played. The interesting thing here, already, White's in a little bit of trouble here, dancing on ice already in this position. For example, if White played castling, b4, this position, knight c4, is very dangerous for white. For example, here knight takes, rook takes c2, crashing through on the semi-open file. Yeah. And if we look at this again with b4, and let's say instead of queen c1, bishop takes c4, a rook on c4, also this lateral influence is instructive in my view, where we can put pressure not just on c2, but we can make d5 much more effective because we've got the lateral influence of the rook. So here, for example, knight takes, we can see that f5, and look at this. Look at these pawns are under fire, all under fire. For example, rook takes h4, white's crumbling. So yeah, there's great things about this. And also, if white didn't play g5, if bishop takes b6, then the dark square bishop without the counterpart is going to be dangerous potentially after d5. Rook fd8. Yeah, this is just a very, very dangerous position with the dark squares in black's favour. And that dark square bishop really good. So yeah, very, very interesting position. So white's, kind of committed to this attack. But, knight h5, this is a very, very nice move. Fischer's not worried about knight on the rim is dim, general principle. It does seem to fit the position very well here. And in fact, it seems Fischer's eyeing up two potential, outpost squares, which both seem kind of logical because there's rooks here and here. And if this f-file can be opened, yeah, that's a secure outpost on a semi-open file, and that's on the semi-open file as well. And you can see Fischer's very logically playing against this in a way, using that rather than the more passive knight fd7. So, for example, knight fd7, bishop d3, f5, e takes. This situation, as an example, is also actually okay, but Fischer's play is much more accurate here with knight h5, in my view, because after king f2, now f5. And yeah, this looks horrendous, with moves like f4 and knight g3, potentially if taking Jack. It looks horrendous already. We see King G2, but Fischer's not wanting to close here. In fact, he does something even stronger. He keeps this F file open, so F takes, and we have bishop takes B6. If F takes E4 here, then knight C4 is really delicious for black. Look at this position, where knight F4 check, and we've got, look, both rooks on those outpost squares aforementioned. Yeah, it's a really logical demonstration of pressure on the semi-open files, and this crashes through bishop takes as an example like this, and it's crashing through for black. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. We have bishop takes b6 being played, queen takes b6, knight d5, e takes f3, check, bishop takes, and now Fischer gives up his light square bishop, bishop takes, king h8, bishop e4, and now he really wants access to f2. It seems as though white's holding the position a bit, but a brilliant move here, which kind of shows that white's kind of overloaded here in this position, and that pawn sacrifice is a little bit dodgy that white's played. So what does black play here? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video, your mission, if you choose to accept, is to try and get access to f2. So black to play here. What would you play here? 5 seconds to pause the video. Okay. d5, yeah. Bishop f3 was played. If bishop takes d5, then knight f4 check will lure the queen away from f2. And once that happens, you know, it's chop chop time. The king's going to get checkmated. White would have to do something extremely desperate like this, but even so, still gets mated. So, yeah, that would be very nasty. So bishop f3 was played, but now knight f4 check. And here, bishop d6 pointing at the king. Rook hf1. Here, if bishop takes d5, e4, as you might think, is pretty dangerous. For example, here, knight takes d5 check. Yeah, it's carnage. Queen c6. And, you know, this is just over. The king side's had it, and there's moves like this, you know, to try and get into g4. It's just horrendous. For example, like this, it's going to be crushing. So you get the picture. Knight e3 would have to be, it's just disaster. So rook hf1 was played, and we have e4. So yeah, these pawns are very vicious. That extra pawn making itself felt. Now e3, and the game actually ended here. If queen d4, white resigned here. If queen d4, rook takes c2 is actually possible. Believe it or not, this is a spectacular move. Can you guess why? If queen takes, what would happen? What would black play in this position? Test your tactics. Black to play here. Okay, we'd have a double check, and that controls the escape squares like f3, and then we'd have a checkmate here. So yeah, this would be a brilliant continuation. Rook takes c2. And the same with queen a5. We can play here, rook takes c2, and it's crushing. So where does the queen actually go? It's kind of out of squares. It's pretty horrendous. There's e2 coming, if you know, among other things. If queen e1, again, actually even stronger than e2 is rook takes c2. So we've got this threat of knight h5 check. So here, for example, e2 then. Otherwise, yeah, there's this horrible knight h5 check as well, and rook h2. So yeah, the semi-open c file is absolutely lethal in this game, but also we have a semi-open f file later. So Fischer, the instructive point philosophically for me is Fischer seems to be acutely aware of the beauty of semi-open files, those one-way kind of motorways where you've got cars traveling towards your opponent, but not the other way around. So his choice of the Sicilian defense, but then later ripping open a semi-open F file. So he's very, very good with his rooks essentially, and his outpost squares on those semi-open files are very, very logical. Once you get an outpost on a semi-open file, you're exerting influence around the board. And here, yeah, these two peachy, very, very peachy semi-open file squares essentially emphasized. And the beautiful tactic, liberational tactic, is very instructive as well. Deflection is a meat and potato tactic for Fischer already in 1956. So a formidable player already. So that it shows, this game starts to show greater evidence that already the game of the century was no fluke game. Fischer's creating masterpieces right in 1956. He's creating great, fantastic games we can all learn from. Okay. Thanks very much. Hi guys, I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you want more Bobby Fischer content, check out my Kingscrusher TV page. And if you go to the bottom of it, it starts at the bottom with 1970 to 1992. I also have 2 other Bobby Fischer courses. I found him absolutely fascinating to study. So there's 1956 to 62 early in his career, and there's 1963 to 68. So I hope you find those interesting. You might want to check them out, all the free samples. And I hope you really enjoyed this video. Comments, questions, likes, shares, always appreciated. Thanks very much.